All right, guys, today I'm going to talk to you about beating stress before it beats you. I'm going to give you a 2-word recipe that's going to enable you to manage, mitigate, and master the stress you have in your life. But here's the kicker. You're going to have to want it to work. For anything to work in your life, you're going to have to want it to work. So be open and receptive, all right? Listen in. Now, stress, which is nothing more than pressure applied, can actually be a benefit in our life. It's not all bad, despite what you might think. And some of you may know that already. Surely you can look back over the scope of your life and find out that there were times that when things seemed to be bad, they actually turned out for good. But what I want to get to the core of is how you deal with it internally. All right? Stress is something that is common to the human condition. It's something that every one of us experience. We're not getting around it. It doesn't discriminate. You can't avoid it. And oftentimes, stress and pressure crops up in our lives in different shapes and forms and in different magnitudes. If they're small, it might just simply be an interruption when we had plans and things were running smoothly and something comes along and throws a wrench in the works. But you go, yeah, I don't like that. I'm a little stressed out about it, but it's fixable. And then sometimes things are a downright crisis. But there are ways of dealing with this, and you need to. Otherwise, you're just a dead man walking. You can't even really be called a survivor. Yeah, you can put 2 feet on the ground when you get out of bed in the morning. You can put your pants on. You can brush your teeth. But you're just basically a zombie because there's no real resilience inside of you. You see, there are people who fall apart under pressure. They're like jelly on the inside. This is what I'm talking about. I've known people like that, plenty of people like that in my life. And at times, I've been that person, and you probably have been too. But then there are people who thrive, who absolutely thrive under pressure. These are the people who are happier, they are stronger, they are more resilient, and they have greater resources to draw from. Okay? They seem to be able to bank energy when they're going through a crisis. And it's unbelievable, absolutely unbelievable. We actually respect and admire these people, don't we? We all know what they're like. They're like the James Bonds in our life. In the James Bond movies, he could be chasing someone down. Someone could be shooting at him. He could just have finished a fist fight, and he always has time to adjust his cufflinks or his tie, and he's cool. Everything's good. And when he's being interrogated, he keeps his cool. And we look at guys like that and go, I want to be like that, but it's probably not attainable. It is a fictional character. But there are people in real life like this. Read prisoner of war stories. You're going to find a lot to glean from there. There's been lots of people who have had to live through dire straits in life and done so with a cool head. And these are the people you want to emulate. Now, here's what I want to share with you. Here's a glowing example of what I'm talking about. This is your 2-word recipe. And don't turn the video off after you're done listening to this, because I have another example I want to share from you from my own personal life that will put this on full display. So here is the 2-word recipe for dealing with stress in the form of a story. Now, this story appeared in a magazine called This Week Magazine, probably sometime in the 1950s. I don't have the magazine. That's not where I read it. I'm reading this out of a book. But the story really portrays exactly what you need to do to be able to be this kind of a person. This kind of a person that we're all wanting to be like, right? So here, listen to the story very, very closely. My younger brother Jim has achieved business success at the age of 46 without a line of worry on his face. His unruffled serenity is the more noticeable because of the daily pressures and harassing details connected with his position. Yet the busiest days find him taking a few minutes out to relax, over coffee, in conversation, sometimes merely leaning back in his chair and looking out over the city. The rougher the going, the more complete his relaxation. Knowing this was not his boyhood temperament, I asked him one day what magic formula had raised him spiritually above the stress of workaday affairs. 2 words, he said. They were spoken to me in the middle of a lake when I was 19 years old. He told me what had happened. He was with a girl who was a champion swimmer. And when she suggested that they swim across the lake, he was ashamed to admit that he was afraid to attempt it. They started out, but by the time they reached the middle of the lake, Jim was certain he was done for. He was panicky and completely exhausted. He gasped to the girl that he could go no farther. But the girl, unruffled, gave him just 2 words of advice. And I followed them, Jim said. I've followed them ever since, except that I've learned to apply them before I'm completely exhausted. It works spiritually as well as physically. And it was so simple. All she did was smile at me and say, "Float, Jim." Understand that. Here's what she was asking him to do. What she was asking him to do was stop doing everything that you've been doing, right? Jim was in over his head. He was fighting against the waves. He didn't think he had any energy left. In fact, he didn't have any energy left. He had no strength. He had nothing left to help him with. You ever feel like that? Do you ever feel like you're so exhausted? You say, I should have found a solution to this problem. I shouldn't be feeling this kind of stress. I've been working at it. I've been tapping all of my physical and mental resources, and I'm still exhausted because I feel like I have not conquered this issue, and now I'm completely stressed out. That's where Jim was in the middle of the lake. And she told him basically, stop doing everything you're doing. Stop moving so much. You're wasting your energy. It's doing nothing for you. Have you ever considered the fact that all the activity, all the effort, and all the good intentions you had were actually working against you? It could be that those are the very things that are going to help you drown. Those are the very things that are exhausting you. So consider it for just a minute that you do what she suggests. And as Jim got to be older, he learned how to recognize the signs ahead of time and said, before I even get exhausted, I actually plan on taking time to relax. He actually stops moving. He puts away everything that he's been involved with. He puts it away. He lays it aside. He removes his hands from it all. And he just decompresses. And some of us don't want to do that because we think inactivity will mean everything will unravel very quickly. But let me suggest that that might be the very thing that will see you not only drowning, but losing complete control over everything. Here's an example from my life. Many, many years ago, before I was married, I was dating my wife, and we didn't have any kids yet. And I was working in road construction. In fact, I was working in earth-moving road construction. It was moving a lot of dirt from point A to point B, all right, on long stretches. And you had a lot of it was compacting the dirt. We were building the Polk County Parkway, very long parkway. I'm kind of proud to have been part of that project now that I drive it on all the time. But I was kind of fairly new in that construction game, and they would throw you on large pieces of equipment that you had to operate. And they weren't hard to operate, but if you don't know how to do it, then you don't know how to do it. Well, you find out by trial and error, okay? You find out after the boss has screamed at you, hollered, and told you that you're going to ruin everything, and you feel under a great amount of pressure because you feel like the whole parkway could come crashing down because I did something wrong. One day, they took me off of a compactor, which is a very large piece of machinery, and they threw me onto one of these great big Caterpillar dump trucks. All right? Now, these trucks are very huge. The wheels at that time, the tires were so huge that they cost like $25,000 a piece. They throw me this dump truck and they say, I want you to start driving this truck, take this load from this point to that point. All right? I said, well, I don't know what I'm doing. Oh, it's easy, just drive it down there. They didn't tell me what else you had to do. I didn't even know how to unload it. I had to figure that out by many people cursing at me and trying to get me on my way. But while I was driving, I noticed that the trucks didn't seem that stable, as big as they were. Every little bump could be felt. And I was rocking all over the place. Everything was upsetting everything. And I could not get the vehicle under control. I could not get the machine to operate in a stable way. I couldn't seem to stabilize it myself. Now the steering wheel is huge. And I'd white knuckle that steering wheel, trying to get it to stop rocking and make me lose control. I'd white knuckle and hold it as hard as I could. And the more I did that, the worse it got. And I stopped and I asked another driver, I said, what do I do to get this machine to stop doing this? He said, let go of the steering wheel. I said, you're crazy. If I do that, I'm going to end up in the ditch. He said, no, if you let go of the steering wheel, it will correct itself. And you know what? He was right. That machine would rock and go all over the place. And I thought, I'm going to try it. I would let up and it would stabilize. Everything would happen just right. It would smooth out. Here's the thing. You can white knuckle your way through a situation, through your problems, through your pressures, through the stress that you're experiencing. But if that's not working for you, if everything continues to take an unstable direction, remove your hands from the wheel, and perhaps it might correct itself. You see, here's what I think. Here's what I think. Because that was a valuable life lesson for me. I think that sometimes God is just waiting for you to let go so he can operate. Think about that. Learn to let go and just see what happens. I mean, what's the worst that could happen? Well, I don't know. Let's find out. I mean, it wasn't working for you anyway, was it? Sometimes it's worth letting go. Sometimes you are in the way, just like I was. Sometimes you just need to get out of your own way by letting go and letting things correct themselves. And you think to yourself, but it's all going to fall apart if I do that. If I'm not taking action, it's all going to fall apart. Some of that is from ego. Some of that is just from a lack of knowledge, ignorance. Okay? Some of that is just insecurity and fear. But mark my words. Mark my words. A lot of times it's just a matter of letting it go. Lay back and do what Jim did in the middle of the lake. Relax. That's what you do when you float in the water, right? You do nothing. You lay back and you look up and you just breathe and you relax and you spread your arms out and you just float. Learn how to float. Next time you're in a situation that's stressing you out and you feel your brow perspiring, your heart racing, say to yourself, just float. Guys, I hope this helped. If you've liked the video, hit the thumbs up. I will catch you in the next one. Have a great day. Bye-bye.